Sup and welcome or welcome back to my channel. If you like talking all things bookish with me here, feel free to like and subscribe. Right now I'm going to be going over all of the romance reads that I ended up reading in February in celebration of Valentine's Day. There were a couple of books that I've had on hold at my library for a really long time, but like everybody wanted to read them, so the waitlist was super long, and I don't know what it was, but all of a sudden at the beginning of February they were available. So I was like, okay, I guess I'm reading these now, and since I'm already reading this many romances, I might as well lean into it and read a few more. So I ended up reading 6 titles that were all romances in February. I'm gonna go through these starting with my most favorite all the way down to the one that is maybe one of my worst books so far this year.
I am in incredible pain.
What's up? Editing Jess here from a completely new location, and I realized as I was editing this that I completely forgot to let you know about how steamy all of these different reads are. I know, it's a heinous error, I'm here to correct it, and since it's so hard to compare different books to each other, we need some kind of scale, right? So we're going to be using the spiciness rating scale from my local Thai food restaurant. Using this handy dandy 100% easy to parse scale, we should be able to determine how spicy all of these books are, because it goes from level 0 to 5 in this exact order, very easy to read, so I'll be adding on a spiciness rating using this lovely scale at the end of each of the book reviews. So let's just get into it.
Begin.
The first one is spoiler alert, and I had so much fun with this. I gave it a 4.5. It was a really good time. A bit of a confession, back in the day I read a ton of fan fiction. I think it was really only in high school. Like, I don't think I read any before middle school, and probably not even during middle school, and I know I definitely didn't read it after high school, but there was a period there where I read a lot of fan fiction. Like, I would come home from school and maybe watch an episode or two of TV and then basically spend the rest of the day just reading fan fiction. So a lot of these tropes and references and little phrases and stuff were very relatable to me. I thought it was so cute, they had great chemistry, and I was just having a really fun time. They also have a little bit more meat to their characters as well, and some like past baggage that they're bringing into the relationships. I really like the way that she handled his dyslexia and how that informs both who he is personality-wise and a lot of his character choices. But I really enjoyed this one, enough so that I definitely think that I would purchase it and read it again. It was a very fun time. I am giving spoiler alert a level 3 spiciness. And this is because it did include some steamy scenes. Like I mentioned, I thought that the characters had some great chemistry. I don't think it was a huge focus of the book, and it didn't happen very often, but I think sparks definitely flew when they were together, and solid 3. I also gave a 4 to Beach Read. I quite enjoyed this one. I don't know if it's like a full 4 or kind of like a rounded up 4, but I really enjoyed the banter in particular. I thought that the two leads had a lot of chemistry. This is an enemies to lovers.
Love, hate, hate, love.
They kind of had a rivalry when they were in college. They were in the same writing program, and now they're both authors out in the real world. She ends up moving next door to him, not knowing that, because she just inherited this house. Her father passed away, and she learned that he had a second family. This is his second house, and she is not happy about it. She's not able to talk to the one person she could sort out her feelings with because he's dead now, and she's just in this house trying to get rid of it and sell everything so she can leave this part of her life behind her. But they end up living next door to each other, and they start this kind of banter and then a competition if they can write in each other's genres, because he doesn't really like romance and all of the happily ever after stuff, and that's really where she thrives. And so they're going to write in each other's genres this summer. They're each going to produce a book, and then whoever can sell it first or for the most money wins the bet. I very liked their banter. I thought that all of the townspeople were pretty well done and cute. I didn't like as much of the more contemporary leaning where we're just kind of getting into their feelings, but I thought it was all very well done and very well written. So overall, this was a good strong read. Beach Read is, like I mentioned, really more of a contemporary or literary read than it's really like a romance type of book. And so while there was at least one steamy scene, it's just not a huge focus. But I think that they had good banter and good chemistry, so 2. This gets a solid spiciness level 2. Which is wildly unlike the next entry on this list, which I also gave a 4 to, and that's Witches Get Stitches. It's the 3rd in the Stay a Spell series. This was originally a book I found on booktube because the first one in the series, Wolf Gone Wild, was pitched as kind of like a Venom type of thing. The main male protagonist is unable to change into a werewolf anymore for whatever reason, and so he enlists the help of a witch because this is really destabilizing his life. He can't process his emotions the same, he can't do his work in the same way he did, and because his wolf is unable to shift, it's starting to manifest as like this own personality and voice in his head, and so there's a lot of banter back and forth between the two of them, kind of like Eddie Brock and Venom.
Never gonna happen.
Just stop doing that now.
You are making us look bad.
No, I'm not.
Yes, you are.
And it was just very fun. It's a series that definitely does not take itself seriously in any way. This is not literary. It is riddled with pop cultural references and a ton of just like snappy dialogue back and forth. One of the things that I like best about it, especially as a non-romance reader, is that it's witches. Anytime you say witches, I'm automatically more interested. And then it's got a ton of supernatural creatures. We've got werewolves, vampires, and something that's kind of new to this world as far as I've seen, and that's called grims. And it's just a blast. I also like that each of the books has a main plot that's going on other than the romance. So there's like some kind of supernatural external thing that's happening. In the first one, it's the guy who's trying to be able to shift back into a werewolf. In the second one, we have like a vampire ring that's kidnapping ladies to use their blood. And like, I don't know why, because this world is pretty progressive. There's even dating apps essentially so that a vampire can find like a blood match and you can go clubbing and whatever. And so it's like, who are you selling to on the black market? This is against the rules, but you know, whatever, it's a fun time. In the third one, we're following along with one of the sisters, because each book is following one of the 6 sisters in this like witch family in New Orleans. And she's a tattoo artist and she's just opening up her own shop for the first time. And it's very much like enemies to lovers. Like they have really, really high chemistry, but they kind of like are at each other's throats. And at the same time, she's maybe going to be able to use her magic to do like supernatural tattoos for people and do things like be able to curb a vampire's bloodlust or enhance a witch's magical powers when she's casting. And as a side plot, we also have like this biker werewolf gang who's in town to stir up trouble. It was just a very fun time. I also love that they all have animal companions in this book. The main character, Violet, her animal companion is a rooster, and he's a bit older than your average rooster. They've been able to magically keep him a little bit alive longer, and he's just like this surly old gentleman who always has bow ties, but a lot of the time they're like nerdy little TIE fighters and stuff, and it's a fun time. It's not a literary time, and it's not going to become like the next big thing, but it's self-published, it knows exactly what it is, and it doesn't try to be anything else, and I really enjoy them so far. Whoo boy! Alright, Witches Get Stitches is definitely higher on the spicy scale. This whole book is just meant to be about the steam. That's what the whole setup is, and she does not disappoint. There are multiple steamy scenes throughout. If that's your thing, definitely look into this series. I don't think that this is the spiciest within the series, so especially for that reason alone, I'm going to give this a 4 rather than a 5 spicy. Maybe if I reread it, I might bump that up, or if I were able to read more romance books and be able to compare them to each other, but as my sample size is small at this moment, I'm not really a romance reader, solid 4. Spice is there. Then I give it 3 to all the feels. I was expecting to like this one a lot more than I did. I love the cover. I love it more than spoiler alert, so I thought I was really going to enjoy this. And I like that it's a different male archetype than we normally get to see in a romance novel. He's very, very loud and bombastic. He's like a mix between a golden retriever puppy and a border collie. He needs constant attention all of the time. He doesn't mind being the spotlight and making jokes and just, you know, all of that as long as someone is constantly engaging his attention.
I said, watch me!
And especially in like the middle of the night, he has too much energy, and so he won't be able to sleep and he'll go out running for hours just at midnight and whatnot. I think the main reason this one didn't really work for me is there wasn't as much banter, but also this was a side plot in spoiler alert, so I already knew what was happening with the 2 main leads. So because I already kind of knew their backstory from what was happening in spoiler alert, yes, hi Odin, very good cat. It kind of felt like rehashing all of that ground again, just from the main character's POVs this time, and I don't think that really worked as well for me. I would say if you're interested in this one, maybe read it before spoiler alert, because there's not really anything in this that's going to spoil that one for you, but you do understand like half of this book just by reading spoiler alert.
Oh no. He lives.
So while I really wanted to love that one, I just didn't really connect to it, but I still liked Spoiler Alert so much that I'm willing to pick up whatever she puts out next. Like I mentioned, All the Feels just wasn't really the book for me. I didn't very much connect to the characters or feel their chemistry, so I know that there was a spicy scene, but it's not even been a whole month since I last read it, and I already can't remember what happened, so I'm giving it a 1. Like, there was some steam, it was there, it wasn't my bag, but like, cool if that's what you're into. Of note, while the characters do not participate in it, the male lead is very into reading stories about himself as like his character in the fandom and pegging. So, there's lots of mentions of pegging. They don't actually do it, but like, they do put it on their list of things to get to. Next is Heartstopper 4. I also gave this a 3. I just don't think that I'm the target audience for this series. I don't love it the way that other people seem to. And I think that she does a really good job of like inclusivity and having a lot of resources and that sort of thing. I gave it a full extra star in this one because I liked the way that they handled the eating disorder and being able to talk about, especially as like an ally and a friend of somebody who has one, what you can do, because you feel like you want to do something and you need to do something, but you don't have the skill set to help that person, and it's okay to understand that you can only do this and the ways that you can be helpful.
I respect that.
So I think that all of those conversations are handled really well. I think the art is very cute and their romance is pretty sweet. It doesn't really get me, and I think it's fine. It's also very short, and as soon as I'm done with it, it's like, okay, that's the thing that happened, moving on. Like, I enjoy my time with it well enough. It's just not substantial. It doesn't have a lot of nuances and extra themes and things for me to pick apart that just like stick with me, you know? So overall they're fine. I don't think I love them the way that everyone else seems to, and I can't just like deeply recommend them. Heartstopper is not a steamy book. This is not a book that you read if you want a lot of spice in your life. This is more like cutesy and cinnamon rolls and those sorts of things. So this is a level 0, represented by the milk emoji as well. And I don't really have much more to say than that. And last on this list is a book that I gave 1 star to, and this is People We Meet on Vacation. And I think I hate this. There wasn't anything I liked or that was redeemable, which was wild because I actually quite enjoyed Beach Read, and this is the same author, and a lot of people even say that they like this one more. I hated it.
Your first story was better.
I don't think that friends to lovers is a trope that really works for me in general. I haven't read any others besides this, but just the type of situations that it's going to set up, I don't think those are things and dynamics that I like to read about. In this particular instance, they've both loved each other for like ever, but neither of them would say it. And so it feels just really disingenuous and kind of slimy the way that they're in relationships with other people, but their heart is clearly with this one individual, and they can't fully give themselves to the other person that they're with. It also kind of makes me doubt their intentions and motivations of how they're acting within the relationship with their best friend. So all around, it's like an uncomfortable situation. This was told in a lot of flashbacks. I don't like that we have 0 perspective from the male POV. It is solely from the female POV, and I didn't like what she had to say, what she was thinking. It's a lot of flashbacks that don't really feel cute. There's not really banter, and especially in the present day, these are people who haven't been together in a long time, and they're both hurt and frustrated, and they're on this like trip from hell where everything goes wrong. And that's not fun for me to read about, especially because it's not filled with the banter and snark and like little moments where you bond anyway. It's just like they're tired and they want to go home and things aren't going well. And to just sit in that constantly was not a good time.
This is my torture chamber.
And like, this is gonna be spoilers, so if this is a book that you actually do want to read, I'll have a timestamp down below for where you should skip to. But 3, 2, 1. Towards the end of the book, in one of the flashbacks, you find out about a vacation that they had went on, and it was as couples. So he was with his girlfriend at the time, and she was with her boyfriend. And she's very concerned, and the only one up is him, and he finds her, and she's worried that her period is late and she might be pregnant. And this is bad because while she loves her current boyfriend, she doesn't think that he wants to have kids. And so they go and they get some like pregnancy tests together, and it turns out she's not pregnant. She ends up starting her period later that day. But he's so freaked out by this and so wants to please her that he unilaterally decides to go out and get a vasectomy. He doesn't tell his current girlfriend, who he was planning to make his fiance at the time. He just goes, oh man, my best friend who I love panicked about being possibly pregnant. I'll get a reversible vasectomy and I won't tell anybody about it. And it's just like, that is some wild behavior. What are you doing with your life? And I feel like I'm supposed to read that as like romantic or something because it's for her and he's really taking her into account, and it's just like, that's psycho. Who are you? I hate this.
I don't like this.
They're also never adults about anything that they do. Like, they could just have a conversation. The main thing that's keeping them apart the whole time is that he wants to have your classic 1950s, like, house, wife, kids, whatever, little stable relationship, and she really enjoys traveling and going out on vacations and making that a part of her work. And they never have a conversation, even by the time they get together at the end, like, how they could both still have what they want and still be with each other, which is also something that they both want. And it's like, there are lots of different ways to have a relationship. You don't just have to have that conventional cookie cutter white picket fence. You could have a relationship where sometimes he goes with her on her vacations, or she cuts her trip a little bit short to come back with him. They would see each other far more often than they currently do. It's not like she's never at home. She still keeps a main residence and everything. So it was just like, you guys could have this. It would be fine. You could just be adults about it and talk, but they don't, because that's not who they are. And yeah, I hated this. It's a 1-star for me. I'm sorry if you like this book, but it did absolutely nothing for me at all. So People We Meet on Vacation has the saving grace that my Thai food restaurant only goes down to level 0 spice. If there were a negative level, I would award it that instead, because I hated every moment of living vicariously through these characters on their vacation from hell. It was just torture for me. And while they do have a scene where they finally get together, like, it's also while the air conditioning is broken and it's hot as balls and it's super uncomfortable. I hate that for me. So if I could give this a negative rating, I would. As it is, I have to give it a level 0, but just know that in my heart, it's way worse than that. So those are all of the romance books that I read in February. Let me know, comment down below, have you read any of these books? Do you want to check them out? Do you definitely disagree with my opinion, especially about People We Meet on Vacation? I would love to hear your thoughts. But until then, I'll catch you in the next one.
Oh, hi.